We're going to explore this further with Alexis Bloom, who is the director of the Bibi Files, which is a documentary based on leaked police interrogations of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. And Alexis, you're joining us from London. Just before we speak, I just want to play a very short excerpt from your film.
יודע שרעייתך קיבלה כמתנה לצורך העניין תכשיט מאלמן מילצ'ן?
לא, אני לא יודע שקיבלה. אבל אולי קיבלה, אולי לא.
אתה לא יודע.
לא זוכר. אולי קיבלה. לא יודע. לא זוכר.
השרשרת הזאת לא ביקשת שרשרת ספציפית? לא. כדאי לומר את האמת, זה חוסך הרבה עניינות. אני שואל שוב, ביקשת תכשיטים ספציפיים? לא ביקשתי את השרשרת? לא.
שרה ממני באופן אישי ביקשה וקיבלה. אני קניתי, אני רכשתי שרשרת וטבעת. מאוחר יותר שרה גם ביקשה מתנה ליום הנישואין שלה. צמיד שעלה כ$42,000. והיא אמרה שבעלה אמר לה שהוא רומני מדי, זאת אומרת קיצ'י מדי. היא רצתה להחליף, אמרת שאי אפשר להחליף צמיד עם כל כך הרבה יהלומים, אבל זאת לשאלת המודעות גם, האם ביבי ידע. היא אמרה לי שביבי אמר לה שהיא לא, כי באמת זה היה צמיד עטור ביהלומים. זאת אומרת, אי אפשר היה ללכת איתו ושמישהו לא ישאל מאיפה יש כזה צמיד. אז היא אמרה לי שביבי אמר שזה רומני ושצריך להחליף. זאת אומרת שהוא ככל הנראה ידע.
Yes, that's a clip from Alexis Bloom's documentary highlighting police investigating the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sarah. Pleased to say that Alexis joins us now. Alexis, we'll come to the pardon request in just a minute, but this documentary, the Bibi Files, at the heart of it are these leaked interviews that police conducted with Netanyahu investigating corruption charges. Tell us what struck you the most about those tapes and what it reveals, first of all, about the Israeli Prime Minister.
They were fascinating to watch. It's Netanyahu at his most unguarded. He's being interrogated in his own language by his own police force, and they're incredibly revealing. It's like looking behind the curtain at The Wizard of Oz. You know, usually Netanyahu's very in control and he manipulates the media and he doesn't answer questions that he doesn't want to answer. And in this instance, the Israeli police ask him again and again and again the same questions, and they compel him to answer them. So it's fascinating watching him having his back against the wall, getting frustrated, getting angry. And it was also fascinating to see his environment, the family around him, his wife and his child, who are very disrespectful to the police and pretty extreme. OK, we'll come on to his wife and his son in a second. But the film also draws this direct line from the corruption allegations in the court cases to October the 7th and its aftermath. Tell us about that. Right. Well, it's like a domino effect. Netanyahu is indicted by, I would say, his own attorney general. So it wasn't an opposition attorney general, it was his own attorney general. He's indicted. He refuses to resign. Every other Israeli politician has resigned when indicted. And then a whole cascade of catastrophic events happens. He tries to eviscerate the judiciary, to take away the power of the Supreme Court. The Israeli public protest. And then after October 7th, he uses the war to his advantage in his own trial. I mean, he turns up many times for court, and after a few minutes will say, oh, I'm sorry, I have to leave. You know, there's a war, I'm needed. So the war is very convenient for him in terms of his trial.
Along the lines that basically this means that the continuation of the war keeps the coalition with the far right together.
That's right. The coalition of the far right. Yeah. I mean, when he was indicted, nobody wanted to sit with him in his coalition. None of the center, with whom he'd often cooperated politically, and none of the left. He was abandoned by, I would say, all reasonable politicians. The politicians with whom he wouldn't have his own photograph taken. 2 years previously were the only ones who would share power with him. And he accepts them. He says, okay, you're extreme. The army wouldn't have you serve because you were that extreme, but you're willing to support me, so I'm going to get into bed with you, politically speaking. And that extreme right coalition is the only coalition that he can have right now because of the trial, and it's the coalition that rules over this horrible massacre in Gaza and these incredibly extremist right-wing policies that you see, playing out in Gaza, but also in the West Bank and all over, the Arab world.
Right. As you mentioned, Alexis, and as we also saw, it doesn't only focus on the Israeli Prime Minister, who we must say he denies all these charges, but the documentary also homes in on interviews with his wife, Sarah, and his son, Yair. Why did you focus on them as well?
Well, I think it's a bit of a fallacy to think of people as acting unilaterally, as existing in complete isolation. Netanyahu is incredibly close to his wife. She holds a lot of power. If you talk to anybody in his inner circle, right wing, left wing, chief of staff, head of the Shin Bet, head of the Mossad, they all say that she is the head of the Department of Loyalty, so to speak. So if anybody is to be trusted, it's up to Sarah to approve or disapprove of them. So I felt it important to show who she is. She's not a peripheral character. She's important politically. And so is his son. Netanyahu doesn't go online. He doesn't send emails. He doesn't know about social media. And his son, Yair, is obsessed by it. So he is the one who advises him in terms of media and social media and what to do. And together they form a very paranoid trifecta who rule Israel.
OK. Briefly, if you would, Alexis, we now have this request for a pardon from the Israeli Prime Minister himself. I guess it was expected. But what did you think? Given all those tapes that you've pored over, what did you think when you heard that?
I was unsurprised. Netanyahu's modus operandi is to deny. You see him denying in the police interrogations. I don't remember this, I don't remember that. The policeman says, but if I said the light was off and you said it was on, that would be a lie. And, Netanyahu sort of bats it off. He does not want to take responsibility. That is his character, that is his political MO, and it will play out in every sphere. So it doesn't surprise me at all that he's asking for a pardon now. He has no interest in taking responsibility for any of his actions.
Alexis, do appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us here on Al Jazeera. That's Alexis Bloom, director of the Bibi Files. In the light of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu formally asking for a pardon on corruption charges. Alexis, thank you.
Thank me.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.